There are few mining regions in the world that can boast the commissioning of 2 mines within a year. I'm with the Minister of Economic Development for the Yukon, the Honorable Ranj Pillai. Ranj, welcome back to Kitco.
Michael, great to see you.
The 2 miners I mentioned at the top, Victoria Gold and Alexico Resources, which both went into production relatively recently. Those 2 gave the Yukon some good momentum, Ranj.
Yeah, you know what? We certainly have seen the importance of mining over the last number of years, especially while the rest of the country was in an economic depression, really, in a sense, because of COVID. And we had positive GDP growth, and we're pretty excited about that. And the Yukon learned that when you have that global instability, having gold miners in place, it's so critical for us. And we saw some fantastic numbers come out of Victoria Gold, and certainly it kept pushing our economy forward.
We had a lot of mergers and acquisitions in Canada in 2021. It's a jurisdiction miners are leaning towards. When you talk to a miner, what do they want to see from provincial and territorial governments?
They want to see certainty. They want reduction in red tape. They want to be able to have good relationships with government, and I think they also want to be able to be navigated through the structures set in place, whether it's environmental assessment or it's working on the ground with our teams. So again, things that we've done, we've invested again into our mineral exploration program, which we've put money into over the last number of years. 1.4 million last year. That ends up leveraging a lot of other funds from the private sector. Again, we continue to promote with Yukon Mining Alliance, which has been a great asset for us. And that's really bringing our miners together and getting out there and telling our story. So I think that's something that folks have really appreciated. I think, again, we're very active in understanding that we need infrastructure in place to support the industry. Some of the key things we're doing right now, we're working with the community of Skagway, Alaska. We're looking at a modernization of our ore terminal in that community. That gets us the Tidewater. It's only about an hour and a half away from Whitehorse, and it's critical. It's critical to the Yukon. It's critical to the country as we continue to become a mining jurisdiction. So, these are just the key things. Again, energy, power. I mean, what we're hearing on the financing side is that people really want to see clean power options, clean energy options, I should say. And that's something that, again, we're focused on. We have, our goal is to have our grid at about 97% renewable energy over the next number of years. And of course, as more projects come online, we're going to have to continue to have the proper infrastructure in place. But what we're hearing from miners are, as they go out to get their financing and they look at the ESG metrics, having good environmental assessment, making sure that there's good collaboration and relationships with the indigenous governments that are in those particular regions. And again, things such as clean energy really matter. Other jurisdictions that have maybe great ground, but you're running on diesel all the time. And that's really, in a modern sense, it's just not something that the financing world looks fondly on.
What can governments do about the labor shortage?
Well, I can tell you what we're doing. I mean, in the Yukon, we've first of all, we've moved the labor market branch from the Department of Education, where it sits in many jurisdictions. We now have that sitting under the Department of Economic Development because we believe it's key. It's a key component. I mean, I think if we look across the housing or across the country, we think of 2 things. Housing's been under pressure and also labor market. So those are 2 things we're extremely focused on. There was an investment made a number of years ago into the Center for Northern Innovation in Mining. That's in place. And now the college that houses that has become the first university in Northern Canada. So, we have the right post-secondary elements in place. And then the other key to this is making sure that we use all the tools. And those tools are everything from making sure we invest in Yukoners that are here to skill them up. We have programs that are in place for that with the right funds. And also we moved immigration under the Department of Economic Development a few years ago. And we're maxing out our allotment on individuals coming to the Yukon from abroad. And what we're seeing is some real interest from individuals that are coming, whether it be from the Philippines or India, which is our two big destinations, our two big origin points, I should say, coming here and having real interest in the mining sector, whether it's exploration or service sector around the mining sector, or actually working on site where you have extraction happening.
If I was investing in a resource project in the Yukon for the first time, what would I need to know about working with local First Nations, and what guidance could the Yukon government provide?
First of all, I think build your relationships early. I mean, that's going to be a key item. We always, if there's a new miner or a new explorer that comes into the territory, the first thing is please take the time to sit with us. We are very hands-on. That's one thing that I think one of our big attributes. People are always happy when they have an opportunity to sit with the Minister of Economic Development or the Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources to have a discussion about what the playing field looks like, what our jurisdiction is like, what are the values that drive our exploration as well as extraction, and what's our relationship. I mean, we have the highest concentration of modern treaties in the country, and it's really important for individuals coming into the territory that they understand what that means, and to take the time and study that, and to understand how our Indigenous governments work, how we work with them, and we're always there to help share that information and to pass that knowledge on. But again, I think at the end of the day, I mean, the relationship between the company and the First Nation is going to be unique, and that's their relationship. I mean, we can guide people, we can get them in the room with the right folks. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to sit down and really build those relationships. And again, when you talk about ESG, it's a key thing. We feel that the framework has always been in place in the Yukon between the modern treaties, which have essentially driven the ability for us to share responsibility in things like environmental assessment, and again on legislation items. It's really important for our miners to understand that, and and our explorers. So that's something that we always say. I mean, make sure you early and often conversations.
Is there any initiatives with First Nations partnerships that is being undertaken by the Yukon that you're looking forward on, Ranj?
Yeah, I mean, we, early in my job in 2017, within 90 days of coming into the role, we were at Roundup in Vancouver, and we signed off on a memorandum of understanding with all the First Nations. It was, really the first of its kind in the country, a real commitment to work that has now led to the building of legislation. And it's a renewal of legislation, a modernization of legislation for mining. This was a commitment that was made, 30 years ago, really. I mean, there was a document called the Umbrella Final Agreement that was signed. A number of our First Nation governments signed on to that. And through that, they have their own unique agreements for each area. And within that, there was a commitment to make sure that we did something called successor legislation. And that work is well underway right now. It's going to give us certainty. It's going to give us a modernized system. It's going to take into consideration a good balance between the environment and the opportunities that we have in the mining sector. And I mean, this is, something that I think we've all been waiting to get completed. We've dug into this over in the last mandate of our government. It's long awaited. This is something that's really over the years been a challenge. First Nations have wanted to see it in place. So that's something I think I'm very excited about that work. Again, I think we can always tweak our environmental assessment regime. It's, you are constantly, it's still fairly fresh. And when you think about how long legislation and policies have been in place in some provinces across this country, and we're continuing to work hand in hand to figure out how do we make sure that we get rid of duplication? How do we make sure that this works for everyone? And how do we make sure it's not so cumbersome, not just on the private sector, but on our governments as well as we go through these processes?
Lastly, it looks like people are starting to travel again. We might be getting a little bit out from underneath this pandemic. Can you talk about the Yukon Tour this summer?
Yeah. So we're property tours again, June 20th to 24th. We're very excited about that. I mean, it's something that the Yukon Mining Alliance, they're so innovative in what they do. It's something I think that a lot of jurisdictions look fondly at. We bring folks into the Yukon. They have an opportunity to really see the projects that are in place, the opportunities that are in place. And again, I urge folks to reach out to Yukon Mining Alliance if they haven't had an opportunity. I know there's a select group that finally get that opportunity. There's lots of people that want to be part of that experience, but it's really second to none. And of course, it's a beautiful time of year. I'll say, as also the minister in responsible for tourism and culture, please, we want folks back. Our second biggest industry is tourism, and I think people are going to be excited to come back to the Yukon later this year.
Ranj, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
He's Ranj Pillai. He is Minister of Economic Development for the Yukon. My name is Michael McRae, and you're watching Kitco Mining.